Marie thought about how she had made the worst decision of her life years ago. That woman who was subjected to people's betrayals and whose life would end in disaster. Marie stood in the defendant's chair in the Lyon courtroom, her hands gripping the railing tightly, looking at the man who had brought her there. Jacques Moreau, resistance hero, survivor of Gestapo torture, celebrated liberation fighter, sat in the witness stand, speaking clearly into the microphone. Yes, I confirm it. Marie Dubois collaborated with the German occupation. I saw her many times at the Gestapo headquarters. She betrayed France. 3 years ago, Marie had saved his life. Now the man was calmly testifying for her execution. This is the true story of how a rescue operation became evidence of betrayal, how saving someone can look exactly like destroying them, and how after the war, those who sacrificed the most were often punished most severely. Let's listen to this situation in its finest detail, with its shocking details and betrayal in its embodied form. Here's the story. You can probably imagine what was happening in Lyon in August 1943. The city was deep in German occupation, and the Gestapo had made it a headquarters for hunting French resistance fighters. Klaus Barbie, the butcher of Lyon, ran operations from the Hotel Terminus, and people regularly entered that building and disappeared. Some came out. Most didn't. Marie Dubois was 26 years old and worked as a secretary at an ordinary print shop. Before the war, she had worked hard and studied to become a teacher. Now she was writing invoices and trying to survive. Her younger brother Pierre had joined the resistance in 1942. He was captured in March 1943 and executed by the Gestapo. Marie was still mourning her brother. Jacques Moreau was 29 years old, a resistance fighter in the combat network. He coordinated sabotage operations, derailing trains, blowing up German supply depots, gathering intelligence. He was good at his job, which meant he was high on the Gestapo's wanted list. They had known each other slightly before the war. Jacques was Pierre's friend. After Pierre's death, Jacques came to Marie's apartment once to offer condolences and give her Pierre's watch, which had been smuggled out before his execution. "Your brother was brave," Jacques had told her. "He never broke. He never gave names. And look where it got him," Marie had said bitterly. That was the last time they spoke before August 15th, 1943. On August 15th, the Gestapo raided a resistance safe house in Lyon. They had been informed. Someone had tipped them off, but they never learned who. Jacques was there during the raid. He managed to escape through a back window, but they chased him through the streets. During the chase, he was shot in the leg. It wasn't fatal, but it was bad enough to slow him down. The Gestapo caught him 3 blocks from the safe house. They dragged him to the Hotel Terminus, bleeding and barely conscious. Marie didn't know any of this was happening. She was at work, writing orders for propaganda posters, another humiliation of the occupation, when a young boy came running into the print shop. Mademoiselle Dubois. They took Jacques Moreau. The Gestapo is holding him at the Hotel Terminus. The boy was maybe 12 years old, part of the resistance messenger network. Marie knew him because he sometimes brought messages to Pierre before he was killed. "Why are you telling me?" Marie asked. "Because you're Pierre Dubois' sister. Because Jacques was Pierre's friend. Because we thought you'd want to know." The boy ran off before Marie could respond. Marie sat at her desk, staring at the half-written page in front of her. Jacques was at the Hotel Terminus. That meant he would be tortured. That meant he would either break and give names or die without talking, like Pierre. She told herself it wasn't her problem. Jacques had chosen the resistance. He knew the risks. She couldn't save him. She was just a secretary with no connections, no power, nothing. But she kept seeing Pierre's face. She kept thinking about what Jacques had said. He never broke. He never gave names. Marie left work early, saying she was sick. She went home and looked at the box where Pierre's hidden belongings were kept. Inside was a note Pierre had written before he died, smuggled out by another prisoner. "Marie, if you're reading this, my soul has already left my body. Don't mourn me. Don't let them win by making you bitter. And if you get a chance to help the resistance, take it. A single small act of defiance is worth more than a lifetime of safety. With love, Pierre." Marie had read that note 100 times. She had always told herself it was romantic nonsense, the kind of thing people write when they know they're going to die. But now, sitting there knowing Jacques was being tortured 3 kilometers away, she understood what Pierre meant. She had a chance, a connection, a very dangerous possibility, but it existed. Before the war, Marie had dated a German officer named Colonel Friedrich Weber. It hadn't lasted long, just a few months in early 1940 before France fell. Weber had been stationed in Paris, and they had met at a party. He seemed different from other German officers, cultured, educated, uncomfortable with Nazi policies. The relationship ended when Weber was transferred to Berlin. They exchanged a few letters, then communication stopped. Marie had almost forgotten him until she heard through rumors that Weber had been assigned to the Gestapo in Lyon. She had seen him once on the street 3 months ago. The man had nodded to her. Marie had turned her head away. Now she needed him. Marie dressed carefully the next morning. Not too provocative, but not too plain. She needed to look like someone visiting an old acquaintance, not like someone trying to save a resistance fighter. She walked to the hotel terminus. Her hands were trembling. The building was old, imposing, with swastika flags hanging from the windows. People on the street passed quickly in front of it, eyes down, trying to be invisible. Marie went inside. The entrance hall was full of German officers and French collaborators. Marie approached the desk, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "I'm here to see Colonel Weber," she said in German. She had learned some during the time she was with Friedrich. "Do you have an appointment?" asked the officer at the desk. "No, but he knows me. Tell him Marie Dubois is here, from Paris, from 1940. The officer looked suspicious, but made a phone call. 5 minutes later, Marie was escorted to an office upstairs. Weber sat behind a desk covered with files. He looked older, harder than she remembered. But when he saw her, something in his face softened. "Marie, this is unexpected." "Hello, Friedrich. Please, sit. Would you like coffee?" "Real coffee, not substitute." Marie sat down. "No, thank you." Weber studied her. "Why are you here?" "It's dangerous for a French woman to be seen in this building. I need a favor." Weber's expression closed off. "I may not be able to help with what you want. You haven't heard what I want yet. Marie, I know why French women come to this office. They want to save someone, a brother, a father, a lover, and I can't help them. I won't jeopardize my position." "You brought Jacques Moreau in yesterday," Marie interrupted. "I want you to release him." Weber was silent for a moment. Then he laughed, but there was no humor in his laugh. "The resistance fighter?" "Marie, he's one of the most wanted men in Lyon. We've been hunting him for months. Do you understand what you're asking?" "I understand perfectly. Why do you care about him? Is he your lover?" "He was my brother's friend. My brother was executed by the Gestapo in March. I owe him this." "You owe nothing to a dead man," Weber said. "Marie, listen to me carefully. Jacques Moreau will be executed. Today, tomorrow, when we're done getting information from him. There's nothing I can do to stop it. Then let me see him before he dies. Please, just let me see him for 5 minutes." Weber looked at her for a long time. "Why?" "Because I need to tell him something. About Pierre. Something my brother would have wanted him to know. It was a lie, but the kind of lie that seemed true." Weber sighed. 5 minutes, that's all. And Marie, after this, don't come here again. Being seen with me will make people think you're a collaborator." "I understand." Weber took Marie down to the basement where the prisoner cells were. The smell came first. Blood, urine, fear. She heard screams from somewhere down the corridor. "He's already been interrogated," Weber said. He didn't say anything. Quite stubborn, they stopped in front of a cell. Weber unlocked it and gestured for Marie to enter. 5 minutes. I'll wait outside." Jacques was sitting on the floor, chained to the wall. His face was swollen, his shirt torn and bloody, and his left leg was wrapped in a dirty bandage. When he saw Marie, surprise appeared on his face. "What are you doing here?" His voice was hoarse. Marie waited until Weber closed the door. Then she knelt beside Jacques and whispered, "I'm getting you out of here." "What?" "I have a connection with one of the officers. I'm going to convince him to release you." Jacques looked at her. "Marie, this is insane. They don't release resistance fighters. They will if they think I'm valuable to them. If they think I'll collaborate in exchange for your life." "No," Jacques said immediately. "Absolutely not. I won't let you destroy your reputation to save me. My reputation isn't worth as much as your life." "Yes, it is," Jacques said vehemently. "Marie, listen to me. After the war, collaborators will be punished. People who helped the Germans, women who slept with officers, they'll be tortured, beaten, executed. I won't let you put yourself in that position." "I'm not asking your permission," Marie said. "I'm telling you what I'm going to do." Marie left the cell and found Weber in the corridor. "I want to make a deal." "Marie," Weber started, "release him and I'll work for you. I'll be an informant. I'll give you information about resistance activities." Weber looked shocked. "You're not serious." "I'm completely serious. I work at a print shop. We handle a lot of documents, some from resistance sympathizers. I can identify them. I can help you find people." "You would betray your own people?" "My own people got my brother killed by being careless. Someone talked or did something stupid that got him captured. Jacques may be a resistance hero, but that doesn't change the fact that the resistance got Pierre killed. I'm tired of losing people I care about for their cause. It was a performance, and every word was calculated. Marie had to sell this, had to convince Weber she was bitter enough, desperate enough, to turn collaborator." Weber studied her face. "If you're lying to me, if you're playing me to save him, I'll have you both shot." "I'm not lying. Test me. Release him, and I'll prove my worth." "No," Weber said. "That's not how it works. First you prove your worth, then I'll consider releasing him." Marie felt her plan working. "How much time do I have?" 1 week. Bring me actionable intelligence within 1 week, and I'll consider your request." What Marie did over the next week would haunt her for the rest of her life. She needed to give Weber something convincing, intelligence that would seem valuable but wouldn't actually harm the resistance. She reviewed every document at the print shop, looking for something that could be useful. She found 3 things: a list of addresses where resistance sympathizers met, but all the addresses had already been compromised. The resistance had abandoned them weeks ago. The names of 2 resistance fighters, both already dead or captured. She verified this through her own connections, and a map of planned sabotage locations, completely fictional. She drew it herself, based on places the Germans were already guarding. She brought these to Weber on August 22nd. The man examined them carefully. "This is good intelligence," he said. "Where did you find it?" "The print shop prints underground newspapers. People are careless. They leave some trails for intelligence. I pay attention. Can you find more? If you keep your word, release Jacques." Weber was silent. Then he nodded. "He'll be released tomorrow morning." "But Marie, he can't know about our arrangement. He can't know about your deal with me. If he talks, if he tells anyone you're working with me, you'll both be executed. He won't know. Tell him he was released as part of a prisoner exchange, or that you got bad intelligence, or whatever story you want. Just make sure he believes it has nothing to do with me." Jacques was released on August 23rd. The Gestapo told him it was a bureaucratic error. He had been confused with someone else. It was a thin lie, but Jacques was too happy to be free to question it. He immediately went into hiding. The resistance assumed the Gestapo was following him, waiting for him to lead them to other fighters. They kept him isolated for weeks, interrogating him to make sure he hadn't talked under torture. He hadn't talked. He had given them nothing. He was still a hero. Meanwhile, Marie became a regular visitor to the hotel terminus. She came every 2 weeks to bring intelligence, always old, always seeming useful, but leading nowhere. Weber was frustrated with the quality of her information, but not suspicious. Sometimes informants just weren't good at their jobs. Marie needed to be seen at Gestapo headquarters. She needed to be visible, because if anyone in the resistance checked, they would see her entering that building regularly. They would see her talking to German officers. They would draw the obvious conclusion: she was a collaborator. In occupied Lyon, rumors spread quickly. Marie Dubois was being seen at the hotel terminus regularly. She had been photographed by resistance surveillance leaving the building with German officers. Someone reported seeing her laughing with Colonel Weber at a cafe. None of these people knew the truth. They didn't know she was giving Weber useless information. They didn't know every visit made her sick with fear and self-loathing. They only knew what they saw: a French woman befriending the enemy. Her old friends stopped talking to her. Shop owners refused to serve her. Someone wrote "collaborator" on her apartment door. Marie cleaned it off and continued going to work, living her double life, telling herself it was worth it because Jacques was alive. She told no one the truth. Not her mother, not her remaining friends. Because if the resistance learned she had saved Jacques, they would know she had a connection to the Gestapo. They would either force her to actually spy for them, putting her in real danger, or kill her as a collaborator anyway. Either way, she was safer if everyone thought the worst of her. Jacques heard the rumors. By October 1943, he had reclaimed his place in the resistance, his leg healed, his reputation solid. People told him about Marie. "Your friend Pierre's sister is working for the Germans now." Disgusting. Poor Pierre must be turning in his grave. Jacques didn't believe it at first. Marie wouldn't do that. She hated the Germans. They killed her brother. Maybe it broke her, someone suggested. Maybe she decided she couldn't beat them, so she joined them. Jacques still didn't believe it. But then he saw her himself. November 1943, outside the hotel terminus, talking to a German officer. They were standing close, and Marie was smiling. Jacques felt something inside him go cold. Maybe the rumors were true. The resistance had photographers who documented collaborators, evidence for when the war ended, when collaborators would be tried. In January 1944, Jacques was shown a series of photographs. Marie entering the hotel terminus. Marie sitting with Colonel Weber at a cafe. Marie receiving an envelope from a German officer. Marie at a party attended by Gestapo officers and French collaborators. "We've confirmed it," the resistance leader told Jacques. Marie Dubois is an informant. She's been working with Colonel Weber since August. We don't know exactly what information she's providing, but several of our operations were compromised after she was seen in certain areas. "Which operations?" Jacques asked. "The safe house on Rue Pasteur was raided 2 days after she was seen passing through there. The weapons depot in Lyon was discovered a week after she was seen near that area. We can't prove a direct connection, but the pattern is clear." Jacques looked at the photographs. Marie's face was clearly visible in each one. There was no denying what they showed. "What do you want from me?" he asked quietly. "We want you to testify against her. After the war, when we try collaborators, we'll need witnesses. You knew her. You knew her brother. Your testimony will carry weight." "She was Pierre's sister," Jacques said, "and Pierre would be ashamed of what she's become." "Will you testify?" Jacques looked at Marie's face in the photographs. He thought of his friend Pierre, who had died without breaking, and he thought of Marie, who apparently had chosen comfort over courage. "Yes," he said, "I'll testify." Lyon was liberated on September 3, 1944. Free French forces and American troops drove out the Germans. People poured into the streets, celebrating, crying, singing the Marseillaise. The occupation was over. It was also the beginning of reckoning time. Within days, people suspected of being collaborators were being rounded up. Women who had slept with German officers were dragged into the streets, their heads shaved, sometimes beaten. Men who had worked for the Vichy government were arrested. Trials began almost immediately. Summary justice moved swiftly and mercilessly. Marie could have guessed what would happen. Who would come? She had known for months. She packed a small bag and tried to leave Lyon, but the roads were closed. The resistance had checkpoints everywhere, looking for fleeing collaborators. She was arrested on September 8th. They came to her apartment at dawn. 3 resistance fighters, one of them, someone she had known before the war. He was also Pierre's friend. "Marie Dubois, you are under arrest for collaborating with the enemy. I can explain. Save it for the trial. Everyone has explanations." They took her to the same basement of the Hotel Terminus where she had visited Jacques a year earlier. The Gestapo cells were now being used to hold French collaborators. The irony wasn't lost on Marie. Marie spent 4 months in that cell awaiting trial. She shared the space with 3 other women, all accused of being collaborators. One had been a secretary for a German officer. One had run a cafe that served Germans. One had informed on resistance members for money. They asked Marie what she had done. "I visited Gestapo headquarters regularly. I went back and forth for more than a year." "Why?" the secretary asked. Marie almost told them. She almost explained about Jacques, about the deal, about the useless intelligence. But she stopped herself. She couldn't trust anyone, even here. If word spread that she had saved a resistance fighter, it could actually make things worse. The resistance could claim she did it to infiltrate them, to get closer to their operations. "I don't know," Marie said instead. "I was stupid. I was scared. I made terrible choices." Marie was finally allowed to see the evidence against her. The prosecutor, a thin man named Leclerc, who had spent the war with the Free French in London, laid it out systematically. 37 documented visits to the Hotel Terminus between August 1943 and August 1944. Photographs of her with German officers at cafes, restaurants, parties. Statements from resistance members who saw her in areas that were later raided. The envelope she had been photographed receiving, the prosecution claimed it contained payment for information. "We have witnesses who will testify to your collaboration," Leclerc said. "Respected resistance fighters who saw you betraying France, ready to testify." "Who?" Marie asked. "Jacques Moreau, among others. He's been quite clear about what he saw." Marie felt like she'd been punched. Jacques, the man she had saved, the man whose life had cost her everything. "I want to talk to him," Marie said. "That's not possible. He's a prosecution witness. You'll see him at trial. Please, I just need to see him for 5 minutes." "No," Leclerc interrupted. "Mademoiselle Dubois, you're facing the death penalty. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Your only hope is to plead guilty, show remorse, and pray the judge shows mercy. Claiming you need to talk to witnesses will only make you look more guilty. I'm not guilty." "Then what were you doing at the Hotel Terminus 37 times?" Marie couldn't answer, not without explaining why she went there. Not without making Jacques look like someone who needed saving, which could tarnish his hero status. Not without further endangering herself. She just remained silent. "I was trying to survive," she said finally. "By collaborating. By surviving." Leclerc closed his file. "Your trial is January 15th. I suggest you use the time to prepare a better defense than I was trying to survive. Everyone was. The difference is, most people didn't choose to survive by helping the Germans. The trial took place in a Lyon courtroom that had been damaged during the occupation and hastily repaired. The courtroom was packed with spectators, people who had lost loved ones to the Gestapo, people who wanted to see collaborators punished, people who just wanted to witness history. Marie sat in the defendant's chair, wearing the dress she had been arrested in. It was dirty now, worn from months in a cell. She looked thin, pale, broken. The prosecution presented its evidence first. Photographs were shown to the courtroom, enlarged, damning, undeniable. Statements from resistance members who had documented her movements. A statement from Colonel Weber himself, taken during his own trial before he was executed, confirming that Marie Dubois had been a regular visitor. Then it was Jacques' turn. Jacques walked to the witness stand wearing his Free French uniform. He had received medals for his resistance work. He was a war hero, respected and celebrated. When he spoke, people listened. The prosecutor asked him, "Do you know the defendant, Marie Dubois?" "Yes, she was the sister of my friend Pierre Dubois, who was executed by the Gestapo in March 1943. And did you observe her behavior during the occupation?" "Yes. I saw her at the Hotel Terminus, the Gestapo headquarters, many times. I saw her talking to German officers. I saw her at social events attended by collaborators." In your opinion, based on these observations, was Marie Dubois collaborating with the German occupation? Jacques looked directly at Marie. Their eyes met across the courtroom. Marie tried to convey something. Desperation. The truth. A plea for him to remember what she had done for him. But Jacques only saw a woman who had been photographed with Germans. He didn't see a woman who had visited Gestapo headquarters while he was being tortured in the basement. She was just a woman who had betrayed everything Pierre died for. "Yes," Jacques said clearly. "In my opinion, Marie Dubois was a collaborator. She betrayed France." The courtroom exploded. People shouted. Someone threw something at the defendant's chair. The judge called for order. Marie sat frozen, staring at Jacques. The man wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at the prosecutor, answering more questions, providing more testimony. He didn't know. He genuinely didn't know she had saved him. He thought she was just a collaborator, and Marie couldn't tell him the truth, because it would make him look weak, would reveal what a woman had risked everything to do to save him when he was desperate. She was trapped by her own sacrifice. Marie's court-appointed lawyer was young and overwhelmed. He tried to mount a defense, but what could he say? The photographs were real. The Hotel Terminus visits were documented. Marie refused to explain why she went there. "Give me something," the lawyer begged during a brief recess. "Anything. Tell me why you visited the Gestapo. Tell me what you did. Without an explanation, you'll be convicted." "I can't explain," Marie said. "Then you're choosing execution over the truth." "Why?" "Because some truths cost more than they're worth." The lawyer tried anyway. He argued that many French people were forced into uncomfortable positions during the occupation, that surviving sometimes meant making impossible choices, that visiting Gestapo headquarters didn't necessarily mean collaboration. Maybe Marie was coerced, blackmailed, under pressure, but he had no evidence. No witness testimony, nothing but speculation. The prosecution had photographs, witness statements, and a war hero stating clearly, she was a traitor. The trial lasted 3 days. On January 18, 1946, the judge delivered his verdict. Marie Dubois, this court finds you guilty of collaboration with the enemy. The evidence is overwhelming. You were seen repeatedly at Gestapo headquarters. You associated with German officers. While French patriots fought and died for freedom, you betrayed your country. Marie stood in the defendant's chair, listening to the words that would end her life. However, the judge continued, "In consideration of your youth and the fact that you committed no acts of violence against resistance members, this court sentences you to 20 years in prison rather than execution. You will serve your sentence at the women's prison in Rennes. May God have mercy on your soul." 20 years. Not execution, but close enough. Marie would be 46 when she got out, if she survived prison that long. As the guards prepared to take her away, Marie looked one last time at Jacques. The man was sitting in the witness section, still in his uniform, surrounded by other resistance heroes. He was talking to someone, smiling slightly, as if this trial was just routine business of the day. He had testified against her. He had helped send her to prison for 20 years. And he didn't even know what he had done. The truth began to emerge before Marie served 2 years of her sentence. It started with Colonel Weber's personal papers, which were being catalogued by French military intelligence. In Weber's diary, there was an entry from August 1943. "Marie Dubois came to me today and asked for Jacques Moreau's release. She offered to become an informant. I don't believe she'll provide anything useful. She seems to be buying time. But I'll play along. If I'm wrong, I get intelligence. If I'm right, at least Moreau lives, which might mean something to someone." Another entry from December 1943. "Marie's intelligence continues to be useless. Everything she provides is already known or completely worthless. She's clever, giving enough to seem legitimate but not actually helping us. I should end this arrangement, but I find myself reluctant. She reminds me of someone I knew before the war, made us into monsters." These diaries were published in 1948 as part of the historical record of the occupation. A journalist read them and recognized Marie's name. He investigated further and found the truth. Marie had never been a real collaborator. She had played a dangerous game, pretending to inform while providing nothing, to keep Jacques Moreau alive. The journalist published an article, "The Non-Collaborator: How Marie Dubois Saved a Resistance Hero and Was Imprisoned for It." Jacques was in Paris when the article was published. Someone handed him a copy in a cafe. "You should read this. It has important information about the woman you testified against." Jacques read the article. Then he read it again. Then he read it a third time. Marie had saved him. She had gone to Weber and made a deal. She had risked her reputation, her safety, everything to get him released. Then she had pretended to collaborate for a year to maintain the story. Every photograph, every visit, every moment that had made her look like a traitor, she had done all of it to save Jacques. And he had repaid her by testifying at her trial, by calling her a traitor in front of a packed courtroom, by helping send her to prison for 20 years. Jacques felt like he was going to be sick. Jacques immediately began campaigning for Marie's release. He wrote letters to judges, politicians, anyone who would listen. He gave interviews explaining what Marie had actually done. He organized a petition signed by resistance members calling for her pardon. "I made a terrible mistake," Jacques told reporters. "Marie Dubois is a hero, not a traitor. She sacrificed everything to save me, and I was too blind to see it. France should be honoring her, not imprisoning her." But the wheels of justice turned slowly. The government was reluctant to admit they had wrongly imprisoned a woman based on flawed evidence. Some officials argued that even if Marie's intentions were good, collaborating, even fake collaboration, was still a crime. For 18 months, efforts continued to free Marie, but finally, in June 1949, Marie was granted a full pardon. She was released after serving just over 4 years. Jacques went to the prison the day Marie was released. He waited outside the gates with flowers, roses, because he didn't know what else to bring someone whose life he had destroyed. Marie came out at noon. She was 32 years old but looked 50. Prison had aged her. Gray in her hair, lines in her face, a gauntness from inadequate food and constant stress. She saw Jacques, and stopped walking. "Marie," Jacques said, approaching her. "I'm so sorry. I'm incredibly sorry." "I didn't know." "I know you didn't know," Marie said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "That was the whole point. If I had known what you did for me, what would you have done? Not testified? Told everyone I saved you? Made yourself look weak?" Marie shook her head. "Jacques, I never wanted you to know. I wanted you to live, to fight, to be a hero. I didn't want gratitude. I just wanted you to be alive. And I sent you to prison." "Yes, you did." Jacques held out the roses. "I know this doesn't fix anything. I know flowers are meaningless compared to what you lost. But I want you to know, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make this right. I'll tell everyone what you did. I'll make sure your name is cleared, that people know the truth." "I don't want that," Marie interrupted. "What?" "I don't want to be famous for this. I don't want to be the woman who saved the resistance hero. I don't want people to know my story. I just want to be left alone." "Marie, you deserve recognition. You deserve—" "I deserve to be left alone," Marie repeated firmly. "You want to make things right? Stay away from me. Don't tell my story. Don't make me into a symbol or a lesson. Just let me disappear." She walked past him, leaving the roses in his hands. Jacques stood there, watching her go, and felt a hollowness inside. He had thought an apology would be enough. He had thought explaining would make things right. But some betrayals are unforgivable, even when they're based on ignorance. Some wounds don't heal, even when you finally understand how they were made. Marie moved to a small village in the countryside. She never married. She worked as a librarian, always stayed alone, lived quietly. When people asked about her past, she said she had been in prison and left it at that. She never talked about Jacques, about the rescue operation, about any of it. When journalists found her a few times and requested interviews about her heroic sacrifice, she refused. There was nothing heroic about it, she told one persistent journalist. "I did what I thought was right at the time. That's all. There's no story here." Jacques stayed away as requested, but he never stopped trying to make amends in other ways. He donated money to causes Marie cared about, always anonymously. He used his connections to make sure she was comfortable in her village. Good housing, steady work. He did it all quietly, never seeking approval, never expecting forgiveness. In 1965, Jacques received the Légion d'honneur for his resistance work. During his acceptance speech, he said, "I'm being honored here for being brave. But the bravest person I knew was someone who sacrificed everything and asked for nothing in return. Someone who was punished because their heroism looked like betrayal. We failed them. France failed them. I failed them. That's something I'll carry forever." He didn't mention Marie's name, but those who knew the story understood. Marie died in 1970 at the age of 53. The illness was cancer. She had been sick for months, but refused treatment, telling her doctor she was tired of fighting. Jacques learned of her death from a newspaper obituary. He went to the funeral, a small ceremony in the village where she had lived, sparsely attended. He sat in the back of the church and listened to a priest who barely knew her talk about her quiet life. After the ceremony, Jacques went to her grave. He stood there for a long time, trying to find words. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "For everything. For not seeing what you did. For testifying against you. For taking 4 years of your life. For making you into a symbol when all you wanted was peace. I'm sorry I couldn't give you what you deserved, which was a quiet life without me in it." He left flowers on the grave, roses, like the ones he had brought Marie. "You saved me," he said, "and I destroyed you. That's the truth I have to live with. Wherever you are, I hope you finally found the peace I couldn't give you." There's something you need to understand about sacrifice. Sometimes it looks exactly like betrayal. Sometimes saving someone means destroying your own reputation. Sometimes doing the right thing means everyone thinks you did the wrong thing. Marie saved Jacques by appearing to collaborate. She made herself look like a traitor to keep him alive. And when the war ended, when reckoning time came, she had no defense because her defense would undermine everything she had sacrificed for. Jacques testified in good faith. He believed she was a collaborator because all the evidence said so. He did what he thought was right, what any patriotic Frenchman would do: condemn a traitor. Neither of them was the bad guy, but both of them suffered because sometimes there are no good options, only impossible ones. Sometimes saving someone costs you everything, and the person you save never even knows what you gave up. Marie went to her grave having saved someone's life. Jacques went to his grave in 1989 having destroyed the woman who saved him. Both are true, both are unbearable, and both are what happens when war forces people to choose between visible heroism and invisible sacrifice, and then punishes them for making the wrong choice. In 1991, 21 years after Marie's death, France officially recognized her as a resistance hero. They erected a small monument in Lyon. Marie Dubois, 1917 to 1970. She saved lives by appearing to betray them. True courage sometimes wears the mask of collaboration. Jacques' family attended the ceremony. Since Marie had no surviving relatives, they accepted the honor on her behalf. Someone asked Jacques' son whether his father would have been proud to see this recognition. No, the son said honestly. He would have been devastated that it took this long, that it came too late for her to see. That's what he felt about everything regarding Marie Dubois. Too little, too late, and never able to fix anything for the one who needed it most. We've faced a real ending. Sometimes sacrifice can be betrayal. Sometimes heroism can be ending someone else's life. What matters most to us is to question the importance of decisions we'll make without questioning the past. By listening to a life story where there is no betrayal, no ingratitude, where both sides have their own justified reasons. In our upcoming stories, we'll be back with exciting, unexpected endings and emotional content that will thrill you. I love you all very much. Farewell.